I was born with spastic quadriplegic cerebral palsy, which essentially means that my limbs and my body is tight. It also affects my speech. That's my primary diagnosis and why I'm in the wheelchair. I also have other invisible illnesses, mainly related to digestion.
So I can give you the full diagnosis because I'm very open about it. I was diagnosed with bipolar 2, borderline personality disorder, and PTSD, which all involve some very fun things like depression and anxiety and some issues with executive dysfunction, all things that make classwork very, very difficult and challenging, along with some difficulties with like social life and interacting with people. But mostly my main challenge in college has been dealing with stuff like the depression, anxiety, and executive dysfunction aspects.
So I kind of been struggling with, it's mostly like test anxiety and ability to focus during tests, and I kind of struggled my whole life, like up through like high school into college with that. And I never sought any help for that until my senior year here at St. Scholastica.
I am diagnosed with anxiety and depression, and I am also an athlete. So in high school, I suffered a severe concussion and just needed some extra accommodations during that time. And then my sophomore year, actually at Scholastica, I suffered another severe concussion in the same exact spot, and so I had to have my accommodations reevaluated just so I could be the best student that I was able to be.
I would say to always listen. Listen before you talk. Because I can almost guarantee you that the answers to the questions that you have will be answered if you listen and have an open line of communication. Communication is key. It really, really is. And I think what's really important when thinking about accommodations, both sides want you to be successful. There is no us versus them. It's a collaboration. So when you work together to communicate the needs and all that, it goes a long way.
So I've had a generally, for going average, a very good experience. And what I've seen from the best of teachers who've helped me the most is communication and understanding and just compassion. Only some teachers see it as almost an inconvenience to them to have to work with accommodations. That like, oh, you have an extension, so now I have to grade papers into the weekend. And I think there's perhaps a need for empathy and perhaps a realization that it may be inconvenient for you, but the student themselves is struggling and beating themselves down and going through all this hard work and dedication to go through your class. Like, it may be an inconvenience for you, but it's a daily struggle for your student.
Yeah, I would say just pulling that student aside if they're noticing that their grades are dropping. And maybe it's just showing more awareness, and instead of just quickly talking about it in the syllabus, maybe make it a little bit longer just to show awareness that it's not just physical disabilities maybe, and just make everybody feel more comfortable about it.
I would say it all depends on what your relationship with the student is. Since I've been in the SSB department, I've been working with my faculty for 4 years, so they all know me. They all have seen me develop into who I am, so I feel very comfortable and confident with talking to them about these things. Just be very understanding, and sometimes just let them come to you before you go to them, because maybe they're not ready to talk about it yet, and you don't want to overstep, but it doesn't hurt with just saying like, oh, reminder, I know about your academic accommodations, and I'm here for you if you need anything. But don't push and pry, because sometimes it will have them retrieve more into themselves if they're not comfortable talking about it yet. I would prefer that email, because especially with a professor that I don't know, and especially if it's in front of the whole class, I'm going to automatically assume I did something wrong and that I'm in trouble. And I mean, that's kind of like getting called down to the principal's office when you're little, right? But having that solid piece of evidence and like email and being able to reread it and fully understand what they're saying, I feel like that's a lot more acceptable and appropriate.